All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Athlete and Artist Show. I am the artist Kyle Forge alongside the athlete, professional hockey player Zach Boychuk. Today, our guest on the pod, you may recognize him from the 12th season of The Bachelorette, the 3rd and 4th seasons of Bachelor in Paradise, X on the Beach, and more. Please welcome Mr. Daniel Sean Maguire. How are you, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah,
You're
no, it's
just
good. I'm haven't done a podcast for a while. No one wants to talk to me. No. Um, no, well, kind of. So usually after you do a show or two, everyone wants to talk to you, from podcast to, talk shows and CNN and all that sort of stuff. But after this, after years go by, I guess fame kind of slowly dissipates. I do have, people reaching out to me once in a while, different podcasts, but it's like, I can't say yes to them all because you're going to be talking to everyone with their cat and dog with them. And it's just, 5 viewers here, 5 viewers there. And I just don't really care. I got to live my life. So, but anyways, I felt like, that's what I could do because, I know you guys.
fair, man. I mean, that's a kind of a good point you brought up. Like I imagine after all these shows, like you said, it gets pretty busy in terms of press and promo for the show. Because how long after you stop filming is it to when it actually gets on the screen in a lot of these
So
shows?
how long? So once you stop filming, how long does it air?
Yeah. So like in between
Um,
then and there, like
yeah,
I assume that you have a lot of promo going on. So
yeah. So every show is different. The quickest turnaround would have been probably Paradise, Bachelor in Paradise America, not an Australian one, but American one. We filmed to like end of June, and then they brought it out beginning of August.
okay,
So that's
wow.
probably the quickest turnaround. Otherwise, like the longest would be 3 or 4 months, depending on the show. I kind of lose track because I've done a fair bit. But yeah, and then as for press, like yeah. So once you do the shows, sometimes the shows will line up interviews for you. Other times over the years, I've had agents or PR people line them up for me. Other times they just reach out to me on Instagram or email. Hey, do you want to do an interview? And I usually say yes, but man, you do have done hundreds and thousands, maybe not thousands, but hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of interviews in person, like in studio and on podcasts, YouTube channels, all this sort of stuff, or on the phone. And you just get tired after a while doing them because it's like a broken record, saying the same old story. You kind of just lose interest. Although I don't mind talking, and especially if people are interested, but it gets kind of tiring sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I could definitely see that, especially like with a lot of the mainstream media. They seem to ask the same things over and over again. I find that, I mean, I'm sure Zach can speak on this from his side of things himself, but a lot of artists or entertainers or athletes enjoy doing a lot of podcasts now, especially on the bigger levels, because a lot of the times you can get into some stories that maybe you can't tell on mainstream media, or be just a little bit more entertaining in general, I find. Or the questions just aren't so dry sometimes. I mean, I find that from a lot of the people that I talk to, that they prefer the podcasting route as opposed to like fucking ET or some shit like that.
Yeah. So obviously, when you're doing like the big ones, like I've done interviews with CNN and ET and all the big ones. Obviously, even for me, who I like to be open and honest, even then, you still have to be a little bit cautious of what you say, especially, the weeks and months following the show, because, you sign contracts that you could get potentially sued. And you don't want to burn any bridges. But as years go by, I kind of will be a little bit more open and honest. And obviously, like if I were to do a podcast that's not super mainstream, I could be a little bit more open and honest because, I know that it might not get as much of an audience potentially. So then, it doesn't turn it around and bite me in the butt. But right now, like, because I'm not underneath, well, I'm under one contract, maybe, I think, because I filmed a show. Well, I filmed a pilot this last spring, and right now they're editing it and then going to be putting it, or trying to sell it to a network.
Okay.
So I don't know if I might be under contract, but for the most part, right now, I'm very open and honest, especially if it's not recorded. I'll tell you anything.
Fair enough. Are you able? How much are you able to talk about that show?
Well, I can't talk about the premise or the name because I can get sued
Yeah.
hypothetically.
Fair.
But yeah, anyways, we filmed it in Mexico in April for 2 weeks. And it's not a dating show. I can say that. I'll say that much, which is
Okay.
nice because the dating shows, I really get tired of them. They're super fake and super unrealistic. And it's easy to get a specific edit in that. I find these shows that often like to target men and try to bash men. And, if you're open or honest, like it's easy for you to look bad potentially. Or
For
at least
sure.
people think of you in a certain way. But yeah, so the show I did was not a dating show. And the last I spoke to them, they're in the final stages of editing it, and they're doing like a pilot, like a sizzle reel, and then they're doing a 45 minute or an hour pilot episode, and they'll be pitching it to like networks like Netflix or whatever, and then whoever wants to pick it up, I'm sure it'll get picked up because the what's it about is very popular nowadays, and I think a lot of people watch it, and plus I'm on it. So, I mean, let's just be honest. People are going to want to see it. No, hypothetically, they could. The network could be like, we don't want Daniel or we don't want this cast, and we could get a whole new cast. I don't think that'll happen, and I really don't. I won't care that much, regardless if they don't want me or not. Um, but yeah, I can't say much else besides that.
And how did you find this specific job? Did they reach out to you? Did you have an
Yeah.
agent?
So basically, yeah, I got a phone call from kind of a friend, kind of. I won't go into specifics, but yeah, they knew who I was, and one of the guys was on the team, and asked if I wanted to do the show, and I said, yeah, sure. So every show I've actually been on, I've been asked. So yeah, I've been asked to go on now. That would have been the ninth show. And I actually got asked to do Bachelor in Paradise America again, but
Nice.
I had to get a booster, and I'm like, you couldn't pay me $1 million to get a booster. And so before
Yeah, I
saying $1
feel
million,
that
they
one.
said, "Oh, what about if we give you more money?" And then I said, "Not for $1 million. You could give me. You can't make me do this show for that." Although I would do the show, but I'm not. I don't want to be told that I have to get a booster, and especially when it doesn't prevent transmission, and it just there's no science behind it. I don't like to do stuff that doesn't make any sense. And so this could be interesting with that show because you'll know that basically everyone that's on the show, obviously, A, has had a booster, B, is probably a super left wing Democrat or liberal, and is going to be doing it for their super fame whores and whatnot. Like you're willing to, especially if you're young, like you're willing to get a booster, potentially getting myocarditis or something. Like I've heard hundreds and not hundreds, but dozens and dozens of stories of people with serious side effects from the vaccine. I don't know a single person that's had any problems with COVID. Like I don't know anyone that's died from it, and I don't know anyone that's had any long-term problems with it. I've talked to one person that they say they had some symptoms for like a month or two, but that's it. But as for the vaccine, and dozens and dozens and dozens, like close friends, and then also like my friend's uncle, my friend's brother. So it's like there's no way I'd get a booster to go on another show.
Right. And like, so when you go to these shows, like a lot of times, like if you go to the US, you need a visa or you need to have like some sort of background, right? Or when you go to
No,
Australia, like how does all that work?
so that's what's interesting is that for these shows, like I thought that I would need a visa, working visa, but because first off, the Bachelorette doesn't pay, or Bachelor doesn't pay, so that doesn't matter. You can do the show because it doesn't pay. The reason
Okay.
why I was able to do the other shows is because it was filmed outside of America. So Bachelor in Paradise, I was able to get paid because they filmed in Mexico. There's some sort of
Oh,
loophole. In Australia, the reason I was able to get paid, I don't know why, but they filmed that in Fiji. But what's interesting is I did do two shows, Celebrity Family Feud and $1 Million Matchmaker, which did pay, but they did film it in the States. I don't know how I was able to get paid for that. I was going to ask questions. I just took the check and cashed it. I don't care. And that was one of the reasons why I didn't get I was going to get a visa for TV. But at the time, I was like, I'm still getting all these shows. I'm still getting paid. So why should I go through the process of paying $3,000 or $4,000 to get my, visa, have to use a lawyer and all this? It was a big pain in that paperwork trail and all that stuff. And I was like, no, I don't need to do this because I'm still getting work. And also the visa only applied to, I think, reality TV. And I couldn't do things like personal training or anything else on the side. It only applied to like TV, I think, and reality TV. So I was kind of like, I don't need to do it. But yeah, so I was able to do all these shows without like having to do major paperwork. I did have to fill out like I think it was like a W-Ben or W-8, something like some sort of tax form.
Yeah.
But it was just like one page. It was a couple like my name, I think my social insurance number, and that's it. And then if I wanted to, I didn't even have to declare on my tax forms. I mean, I won't go into that. I don't want the, tax people coming at me. But hypothetically, you could just not declare it if you didn't want to.
Wow, you don't want to get caught doing that, though. I don't think. I don't know.
No,
I'm not an accountant, but
I have a good accountant, and again, that was years ago. But again, I'm pretty sure I declared it. I can't remember. It was a while ago.
Fair enough. I mean, so you said even from the first time you did one of these shows, like was that your first show was Bachelorette season 12, right?
Yeah, in 2016.
So you didn't have to like send an audition. Like how'd they find out about you? How'd they ask you to be on the show? Did you already have like a social media following, or did you send in a tape, or how did they kind of pick you out of the crowd?
Yeah, so it's funny because sometimes people are like, "Oh, you still can't find love, and you're applying for these shows," and I'm like, "No, loser. Everyone's come to me. They're coming to Daddy. They want me." So Bachelorette, they sent me a message on Facebook saying, "Hey, Daniel, you want to do the show?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." "And how did you find me, by the way? I'm just curious." And they we saw you at Fashion Week in LA. That was like 5 months ago. So they kept me in their system for 5 months. And then they asked me to do the show. And then obviously Paradise is the same network and, same producers. And so they asked me to do Paradise. And then Australia, because obviously it was the first time they were doing the season of Paradise. And obviously a lot of the producers and networks, they probably saw our show, and then they wanted some of our cast, and then they obviously wanted me. So they brought me down both two seasons in a row. And then with $1 Million Matchmaker, that happened because Patty, who's like was the host of the show, she kind of knew my buddy Vinny somehow, and they wanted like 2 Bachelor guys on that. And then for Celebrity Family Feud, which was just a 1-episode game show, well, they wanted like Bachelor guys against Bachelor girls, so they just you ended up using me. And then MTV X on the Beach, because it's like kind of like it was like a celebrity version, even though I don't really consider myself a celebrity. They wanted people who had some sort of like fame a little bit. And so they just reached out to me basically. So like every show has come to me. And then as for like a social media following, when I had done The Bachelorette, I had maybe 1,000 followers. So I didn't have really much. So they didn't go off on that. They just went off of because they saw me doing this runway, I guess. And as for what I've heard for Bachelor or Bachelorette is that like 50 to 75% of people get scouted or found or submitted from a friend or someone who's done the show. Like a small percentage of the people actually like submit an application for themselves. So what I'm saying is good luck trying to get on these shows if you're just like a nobody or whatever.
You might have to submit Chucky here after his hockey career is done.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be making more money probably playing hockey than on the show. But again, it really depends on how far you finish and how many followers you get, because obviously most people are going on these shows to try to get followers, because of followers equates to dollars. So if you have 100,000 followers, you can easily get $1,000 per post. If you have 1 million followers, easily 10 G's a post. So a lot of people are trying to get on these shows for that.
That was going to be my next question. So how did you monetize everything after you started gaining some traction in terms of socials and just with your entire likeness from being on these shows? Was it purely social media, or how did you have kind of a plan on how you were going to go about it?
So to be honest, in 2016, I really had no plan per se. Because again, social media, I only recently got a smartphone in 2013. Like I said, when I first did the show, I had about 1,000 followers. I think I finished a Bachelorette with like maybe 10,000 followers, maybe.
Okay.
Because maybe my edit or the maybe only be on 5 episodes and only so much airtime. And I was kind of I was back then in 2016, the whole collaboration with brands and influencers was kind of looked down upon, and people are like bachelors were considered like sellouts and all this sort of stuff by trying to do work with brands and stuff like that. And so, number one, or there's three reasons I didn't do much at the beginning. Number one is I didn't have that many followers at the beginning, very beginning. Number two, I again was kind of like, that's for losers and sellouts, and that's silly, and teeth whitener, or this and that. But also the other main reason was because I was making good money through appearances. So like I would do public appearances at nightclubs and bars and venues, and I was getting paid good money for 1, 2, 3 hours. And so I wasn't really interested in the whole brand deal stuff because I was making good money at doing other things. But as years went by and it became more normal and acceptable, then I was like, shit, maybe I should kind of like, I'm kind of missing out here, and maybe I should, because the money can be good as well doing that. And so then, I started working with some brands. They would either reach out to me on Instagram or email. And I started slowly doing more as years went by, because it was more acceptable, and also because more brands were reaching out to me.
For the appearances, would you go like plan an entire tour for say a month? Would you just hit club to club to club? Because I remember like back when I was working the clubs, I think the first one I worked at was like 19. We would have a bunch of like bachelorette guys come on and host events for like ladies' nights. Like I did an event with I think his name was Marcus Grodd or something like that. I forget what season he was on, but like
Marcus, way back in the, I think, it rings a bell.
Yeah, and we would like bring them in for ladies' nights, and the girls would go nuts, and then they'd pop over to the next club like the next week. Yeah, that was Ranchman's, but yes, I think Seaboys did it too.
Yeah. But so speaking of the devil, long story short, 2016, after I did mid-season of Bachelor in Paradise, my second show, I got a message sent to me on Facebook through who now I'm actually a really good friend at, working at our bar right now. Or kind of bar restaurant. But anyways, she sent me a message saying, "Hey Daniel, this is Julie. I'm an event manager and I organize these club appearances." And I was kind of like, "What, an appearance? What is this? I don't know what that's about." And I was kind of like skeptical. I don't know. But I said, whatever. She told me how much money it was going to be, and I'm like, fucking right. It's like, so the first appearance was at Cowboys in Calgary, and then Ranchman's in Edmonton.
Nice.
And it was fucking insane. Like I felt like I was Justin Bieber. Like it was crazy. The amount of people that turned up and the amount of like praise and it was amazing. Like I felt like a superstar. Anyways, so long story short, from 2016 till like about 2019, I did about 50 to 75 of those across Canada and America. And they would be sometimes at clubs, restaurant bars, fitness expos, women's expos, but not all of them were a success. Like sometimes not many people would show up, partly because maybe the town was not big, or other main reason is usually because the venue or whoever was putting it on didn't do a good job of advertising it.
Sure.
Like sometimes people are like, "Why the fuck are you at this bar? No one comes here anymore." But I did do some where I did do some of these where it was like a tour where we went from city to city. So every night we would do almost like an appearance at some sort of venue. Sweet. And it was fun, but it got tiring pretty quick because every night you were drinking because it was free or you got paid, but also because it's sometimes hard to be sober around all these people where, they want selfies and you're like, yeah, and answering all these questions. And also, it's easier when you're a little bit looser when you're on the juice, having, drinking. So, and it was fun at the time, but after a while, like a week or two of doing these, I was like, holy fuck, it's tiring. So after a while, I kind of was like, I got a little more selective, and then as for the money, like it varied, but for the most part, there's kind of a set rate. Sometimes it would include flights, hotels, food. Sometimes it would be just appearance fee and nothing else. But yeah, I've done those all across Canada and America. And for the most part, it was a good time. But like right now, being 37, they would have to pay me, a decent little chunk of change to do it, especially because I don't drink anymore. But anyways,
What was your favorite city or venue that you got to go do something like
so
that?
the best turnout was probably Cowboys the first night. I think it was a Wednesday or Thursday, and there was fuck. I kid you not. I'm not trying to brag or not trying to lie. As you know, I'm a very honest person. Again, and this is 2016, so 6 years ago. They said I had a better turnout than the Kardashians at the time, which was fucking nuts. Like we had hundreds, thousands of people, and then hours of pictures and selfies, and we actually had to stop doing them because we just couldn't do anymore. But so Cowboys was one of the best. Edmonton was really good turnout, and then other really good spots were actually in Ontario, places like London, Ontario, Guelph, like insane. So many women, a lot of good-looking women, amazing turnout. But again, some turnouts were like crickets, and it was embarrassing for me, my manager, for the venue. I felt bad, and so like sometimes you feel great, and other times it's embarrassing, and you're kind of like tuck your tail between your legs. You're like, I'm sorry, but I guess I'm not liked here, or not many people know me here, or whatever. And sometimes again, the venue just is not a popular venue, and or they don't do a good job at advertising.
Yeah, I've seen that happen a lot where like a smaller venue will try to get, a well-known person from either a TV show or whatever to come and host an event, and it goes to shit because like you said, either one, no one goes to the event or that venue anyway, two, they sucked at marketing, and that's why they have these problems in the first place. But
yeah, so again, often sometimes it would be like a ladies' night that they would bring me in, or sometimes it would be
ladies'
like
nights were huge for them.
Yeah, and like I said, the ranch. So yeah, I remember the first ones was Cowboys and Ranch in Edmonton, and that was like, and it was good money. I remember just being like, holy fucking like cash, like usually.
Yeah.
Plus all hotel, food, nice restaurants. Like I was living the good life. It was fun, but again, it gets tiring after a while. So when you hear about these celebrities or when you hear about these musicians that they get like sick or burnt out, or they have to cancel tours, it's like I totally understand it because they're performing actually for hours, and they're singing and dancing or whatever it is. And it's just like night after night, and often they're partying and stuff like that. So it's like, I could totally, more sympathetic or empathetic towards, them canceling or getting sick, because I understand.
For sure, especially at a venue like Cowboys. Like I worked at Cowboys back in the day too, and those old school ladies nights, like man, they hated the strippers too. Like so, anytime the girls would have like someone like you come in and that was just something different for a night, they would just go nuts.
dude, it was like I wish like sometimes me and my event manager Julie, and sometimes some of the other bachelor, we kind of joked around, but we were serious. Like, man, this has to be filmed because people wouldn't understand what it was actually like. But another reason why a lot of guys enjoy doing these appearances, not only because they could pay all right, but because it's because women would throw themselves at you like insane. Like you could pick any women you wanted almost. Like it was crazy. I don't want to go into stories, obviously, but again, a lot of guys like to do this because they could get laid like all the time, and it was fucking nuts.
Do you have any wild stories from some of these nights that you are able to share?
Well, nothing that's PG, but long story short.
Hey, it doesn't need to be PG.
Well, anyways, long story short, when you're doing these appearances, when you hear of like rock bands, and it's all about the partying and like meeting women, hooking up or not, like it's crazy. So I've done university, I've done the travels, and then I've done these appearances, and like universities suck for women. Traveling's really good, but appearances, like, it's like up here. It's crazy. It was crazy. I mean, it depends what kind of standards you have too. Obviously, if your standards aren't that high, it's even easier. But so I won't go into stories but you can get that.
Most of the time, were you booked on your own, or would there be like a couple bachelor like contestants, or would it be like you had a crew to roll with, or were you just pretty much on your own?
Yeah, so I would say a third of them, no, 75% of them, I was on my own. which was not bad because I was with my friend Julie, who ended up being my friend, who was like my event manager, and she was like she was like my best friend, like dude, like I went like she was like a guy to me, like we were so open, and she would help me like pick up women, and so it was good like that. And sometimes in the city we were at, she would bring some of her friends, or I'd bring some of my friends. Hey, you want to come along to this appearance or whatever? And all my friends were like, "Fucking right!" Like I'm like, "You ready for a party?" They're like, "Oh," they were always like blown away by how much fun it was often be. But I enjoyed the ones that I was often with my other bachelor guys, that like Vinny or Camille or Josh, and it would sometimes be like, or Jordan. Sometimes it'd be me and one other, or me and a couple, and then it was like it would get really wild and really fun because obviously you're bouncing each other's energy off, and you could just share these moments and excitement with each other, and it was a fun time, just like basically a just big party in the clubs with dozens and dozens and dozens of women, and yeah, it was a good time. Really, really can't complain. Again, because sometimes you're often staying in nice hotels,
Yeah.
Fancy meals, limousine rides here and there. Like you get treated a lot of times like, again, like A-list celebrities, even though we are like nobodies. And that's why I'd always be like kind of laughing, because I'm like, we're getting paid to do this. We're getting all this free stuff. Yet I'm just some random guy from a TV show that, I could be like I could have no education. I could be offered nothing except for because I was on these shows, I was treated like this.
So were your DMs crazier after the shows or after these appearances? Like I bet you after these appearances, the
No, usually
DMs
after
started,
well, so I'd get DMs from all types of things. Sometimes like, oh, I saw you in the street, or I saw you in the airport, but I was too shy to come up to you, or whatever. I hope you enjoy my city. I saw you're here. But for the most, a lot of times they would be like really active. The DMs would be really active during the shows or right after the shows. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. After every show was different. So it depends on your edit. So every edit was different. Sometimes my edit I would consider like a B plus. Other times my edit would be like a C minus. It really depends. So it also it depends on how the person interprets it. So if all of a sudden you have 100 people watching Chris Rock, 25% might say, oh, he's homophobic, he's transphobic. 75%, oh, that's the funniest shit ever. And it's the same with me. Like you have some people that like me, some people that dislike me. So again, I have good DMs and bad DMs. As for like the quality of women that are in my DMs, like I'll just be straight up honest. They're not rockets. They're not dimes. They're not nines and tens. Maybe the best would have been ever like 7.5. So like, I don't know if that sounds bad or that I'm rating women, but like, I'm not getting like celebrities sliding in my DMs. I'm not getting models necessarily. Some here and there, but not like you might think. Again, there's obviously a variety of reasons for that, but you do get a lot of DMs, and also guys too. You get a lot of guys sliding your DMs, some that are gay, some that are straight. And I don't mind it. Like I slide in people's DMs. The other day I slid in some guy's DMs because he had some nice pictures of the area around here. Like I was like, awesome pictures. Sometimes I slide in a woman's DM because I find her attractive.
Have you slid in any celebrities' DMs?
Have I slided in any celebrities' DMs?
Yeah.
No. Because
No?
they're not gonna respond. They're not gonna respond.
You don't know that.
So this is how I do DMs. The more followers they have, the less likely they are to respond to you. So I usually try to stick to like at least max half a mil, but if not lower, because the lower amount of followers they have, the more likely they'll respond to you.
That makes sense.
Because these girls have literally millions of DMs. Like I've talked to some girls that have like, I don't know, a couple 100,000 followers, and I'm like, how many DMs do you get a day? Because they're attractive girl, and I'm talking to them, and they're like hundreds. And I know a lot of DMs can be bad because I get a lot of DMs from guys that are like, they send me dick pics, or they're like nonstop like sexual stuff. Which again, I don't mind. I don't like the dick pics, but because I'm straight, obviously. But yeah. So I mean, DMs is just like a form of communication. So I really don't mind it because I do it myself.
Fair enough.
And so is that kind of how the OnlyFans started? Was after like all the 7.5s that slid in, and then the odd guy that came in?
No. So how the OnlyFans started was a friend of mine. Well, we're not like super close, but at the time it was just like kind of more of an acquaintance. She was telling me how she has OnlyFans, and then she showed me how much money she made. And she only had, at the time, she only had like 50,000 followers or 75,000 followers on Instagram. And she showed me how much money she was making on OnlyFans in 1 year. And I was like, what? And she doesn't show like, I don't think she shows like vagina. She's, I think maybe tits and just like whatever. But I was just like, holy fuck. And I was just like, this would have been 2020. I think now I've had it 2 years. And I was like, okay, I'm comfortable with my body. I'm not shy. If people want to pay for pictures, like extra pictures, I'm like, why not? I feel like, and I was talking with her and she helped me set it up. And all I gotta say is I regret not having it earlier, because yeah, I'm not making the money she is, because it's a lot easier being a female. I'm not showing my dick, so it's a lot harder. But it's still, it pays my rent for the month, and it's easy money. Like I basically just show pictures that I would maybe on Instagram, but if I show it on Instagram, it becomes across as like maybe too douchey, or maybe too narcissistic, or makes my brand too sexual. So It's just an extra platform avenue of pictures. So basically just pictures of my underwear, or like maybe I'll show my ass here and there. Basically just like pictures like that. I post 5 times a week, maybe sometimes videos. But yeah, it's pretty easy. Again, I'm not making like crazy money, but it pays kind of like the rent for the month.
Man, you look at some of the money some of these girls are making, it's insane. Like Corinna Kopp was making $1 million a month. I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
Dude, how frustrating is that for anyone that has a day job, anyone that's gone to university, anyone like the doctor, anyone that's working their ass off, and you have girls that might not have finished high school, that might be the worst person in the world, as like they might be a piece of scum garbage person, but because they're attractive, they're good at marketing, they're able to make $1 million a month on OnlyFans.
Well, the Cash Me Outside girl from Dr. Phil, like she just seemed like one of the worst people ever. She's making millions off this.
That just shows you how messed up society is. But at the same time, look, good for them for making the money. Good for them for milking it and doing right. Like, I'm not knocking them. Like, good on you. And I gotta say, like, if you're a girl and you can't make money in 2022, like, fuck me. Like, it's crazy. Like, no, I'm not even talking OnlyFans, but even social media, like Instagram, like, a lot of like, it's just crazy. There's so many ways. It's like brands are way more. There's way more brand deals with for females and males. And again, then OnlyFans, like, even if you just walk around in bikini, work out in bikini, like if you're able to market yourself or promote yourself, like you can make you can make so much money. It's crazy.
For sure. I know guys on OnlyFans too who won't even show their face. They'll do full nude, but they won't show their face, and they're making like 10 grand a month, not even having to show their face. Like,
yeah,
it's insane.
I obviously I've shown my face, and my face, I like my face, and people follow my OnlyFans because they see my face. And anyways, so like obviously if I were to show my dick or do sexual stuff, I'll make a lot more money. But once you go down there, it's no going back.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And it's not like I'm embarrassed of my dick, like, because I don't have a small dick, but you have your mom, my sister, and then they know that stuff, and like people are telling them, obviously my mom will find out, and a little bit awkward. I don't know. Like, would I want my son or daughter showing their puss or dick on OnlyFans? Not really. But at the same time, hypothetically, if your son and daughter was making $1 million on OnlyFans a month, and they're living the best life ever, and they can only work a couple hours a week, you can really get mad at them, and if they're super happy,
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Jackie. Sorry. What were you saying?
No, I said sometimes you got to chase the bag if you can, but for them, it doesn't last forever.
Well, I talk to my buddies sometimes. They joke around like, why don't you just show your dick or do this or that or whatever, and really milk it for a year and make $1 million in a year, and then just like stop. And I'm just like, well, it's easier said than done just to go from like X amount of money to like from going from A to Z. Like that's the
Yeah.
first off, going from showing what I do now to Dick is like a huge, like it's out there. Like
Yeah.
there's no going back. Number one. Number two, it's like it's easier said than done just to be like, oh, you're going to make $1 million or 10K a month. I mean, I'm sure I could do it. Like, but again, I'm not broke. That's the thing. If I was broke and had no money, then I would probably do it. That's the other thing. Is often people are like, why don't you promote yourself more or do this or do that? And I'm like, because I'm not broke. Like there's a reason why I'm going traveling for 4 or 5 months this coming because I'm not broke and I have some money, you know?
Yeah, it's at this point like it's just an added stream of income that you,
Exactly.
like you're saying, you don't need to put all your effort into, and if it's there, you don't need to put too much effort into it. Hey, that's get that money.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I go through phases sometimes where like I try to make more money because I'm for the most part self-employed. Besides coming to Canmore to help out my friend's bar, for the most part I'm self-employed. Where like some months I try to make more money than others, just depending on how motivated I am and whatever. But like a lot of people, they care so much about money where they end up ruining their life and not enjoying. They don't have any freedom. They can't go travel. They can't do this. They can't do that. They get sick and tired, like physically like sick or tired and run down because they just chase money. But it's like, man, you got to live life. And I always say, like, if you were to die tomorrow, would you have been happy with the life you lived? Fuck, I know I sure damn hell would be. Even though I don't want to die at the age of 37, like I've done everything I've ever wanted to. I'm kind of running. But now the bad thing is I'm kind of running out of things to see and do and whatnot. But I'm always trying to find new things.
So moving forward in terms of, I know you said you just shot a pilot for a show. Are there any other shows that you haven't, been a part of, or series that you've been a part of that you would either like to go on or are close to having the opportunity to go on, like Too Hot to Handle or some of those type of shows?
Yeah. So there's nothing else in the works right now besides that one show. If that show does get picked out, which I'm sure it will, and if I'm part of the cast, which I would be surprised if I'm not, it's a show that might film every year, which would be cool.
Cool.
So that's like if it gets popular, obviously you can grow your social media and then more brand deals and more whatever free stuff, whatever it is, which would be cool. I would not be mad if that happened, but if it doesn't happen, I'm not mad either. As for other shows I would like to do, it really depends on the concept and like money. Like I always say, and I always tell people, like, if the price is right, people will do anything. People are always like, oh, like I want to fuck it. Like a guy might be like, no, I want to suck a dick for money. I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. If $1 billion was sitting on a desk, you're 100% gonna suck a dick. People like don't try to pull off Mr. like, oh, I'm straight. Like if the money's right, people will do anything. Because the other thing I always say is like, because if you don't do something for $1 billion, think about how many people you could potentially save from like starvation or something like that, right? So if you were to use that money.
Yeah.
But as for like Too Hot or Handle or any of the shows, like again, if the money's right, I'll do it. That being said, like the dating shows, I am getting a little bit tired of doing because again, they could be kind of fake, and also because I don't drink now. Like a lot of shows, it's a lot easier if you're drinking. And it's kind of like some party and drinking. And since I'm not like about that anymore, it's a little bit harder for me to do. Like the show, like the challenge, I would like to do. But my agent at the time, a couple of years ago, he said that they're only using new people on the challenge if under the age of 30. Like if you had been an assist, say if you started the challenge at 28, you could continue doing it to like, say your early 30s. But he told me at the time they didn't want people that were like 35 or something like that. And so that's the other problem with some of these shows is they only want people who are like 20, 25, 30. Well, I'm 37, so I'm a little bit too old for some of these shows. Other shows, they don't want to pay anyone because they just want to use people. Like reality TV is the worst for that. They just want to use you because they know people will do this stuff for free and because, they're cheap as hell. And I'm not willing to do stuff for free, hell no. I've done 8, 9 shows and, you're not going to get me for free. You can use someone else, but I'm not doing anything for free. You gotta set a price for yourself and not sell yourself short.
Yeah, you've got the experience and credibility where you don't need to be taking opportunities for exposure or whatever the fuck they try to sell you on.
Well, that's the thing that drives me nuts. Like sometimes friends or people like, oh, you can get the exposure or you could use exposure. I'm like, fuck it. Like, I almost get mad. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, I don't need exposure. Like, I've done 8 shows. Like, unless you can guarantee me that I'm gonna get 10 million followers from that show. Because the thing is, I've done a bunch of shows where like no one watches the show, so you don't get followers. Recently, my buddy done a new reality TV show. He was all excited to do his second show, and he was excited to get some followers. He got 0 followers, and I've seen that numerous times. I mean, even like the most current season of the last season of The Bachelor. I don't know the guy's name, but I remember looking up. I was just curious who this guy was, and the show was just about finished, and he only had like a 250,000 or 500,000 followers, which is low when you're The Bachelor, because usually you finish a show with closer to 1 million followers, but because maybe the show, not many people are watching that show, or they don't market it well, or maybe you're just not liked. So it's like for example, when Bachelor in Paradise said, oh, we'll pay you more money to come and do the show and get the vaccine. And I'm just like, okay, well, hypothetically, I get the vaccine and then I leave after day 1 and I get no followers, or you give me a shitty edit. It's like, is that worth getting a vaccine for? No fucking way. That's why, like, even for $1 million, it's not worth it.
That's crazy. They wanted you to get an additional booster just to go back and film another show.
Oh, dude, I was pissed. I was looking at the contract, and I was like, okay, and then it said you need the 2 doses of vaccine, and then the 1 additional one, and I'm like talking like, do I have to get a booster? I was like, this can't be true, because I'm like, there's no fucking science behind it. Not only that, but like the chances of me getting being healthy, young, the chances of me having a side effect of the vaccine is a lot higher than the fucking COVID, in my opinion, and from a lot of stats I see. But it's just, and it doesn't prevent transmission. I'm like, this is fucking insane.
Yeah.
And so, like, worst case scenario, like, let's say they say, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this show for $500 a day, and then I'm there for 3 days. I get $1,500, and then I get a bad edit, and then a month later I have a fucking stroke or a heart attack from the vaccine. Oh, was that worth it?
Are you still watching any of the shows? Do you pay attention to what's going on nowadays?
So even going back like to my first show, it was funny. So when they asked me to do the show, I was like, sure. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do the show for fun, for experience, for maybe get some fame, money. Who knows what happens? But I didn't do the show to find love. Because I know these shows are reality TV. And so when I did the show, when I didn't even know who the girl was until I think it was like a day before I went to go, like, we went to film the next day, and I'm like, who's the girl, by the way? Her name's JoJo. I was like, okay. Like, I didn't even see a picture of her. I had never seen the show before, besides 5 minutes here or there, like maybe when I was 10 or 20 years old. And so I didn't know really like how things went. I should have maybe done some homework before, so I could get maybe a little better idea, maybe kind of game plan things a little bit better. But yeah, same with Bachelor in Paradise. I've never seen it before doing it. And in the last like 5-6 years, I've never seen a full season. I did watch a couple of episodes here and there because I was doing a podcast with some guy, but I don't currently watch the show because, to be honest, I just don't care. And I find it really fake. And because having filmed these 8 or 9 shows, I know exactly how they're filmed, exactly how they're edited, and I know exactly why these people are going to the shows. So it's so hard for me to watch it, and so I just can't do it.
Would you ever do something like Big Brother or Survivor?
Big Brother would be very hard because I'm the type of person, I can't like sit still, and I can't be stuck in a house. I'd probably get anxiety after a couple of weeks, or I'd want to beat someone up. But I would still do it if the money is right. Someone said, oh, we're gonna give you $10,000 a week. Sure, I'll do it. As for Survivor, I would do it as well, but I don't think I would do well because I eat a lot of food and I'm already like 6-7% body fat. So I'd probably starve to death in a couple of days. But if I were to do that show, I'd probably gain 10-20 pounds of fat. And I would still give it a go. I would enjoy it, I think. But I've heard Survivor's like, actually, I don't know if it's maybe changed, but I've heard it's actually like kind of badass and hard, where like it's pretty rough, like it's Survivor. Like they don't give you like really food except for maybe like the odd bag of rice here and there. Like I haven't seen the show in many years, but I've heard it's like really difficult.
It'd be tough, I think, for sure.
Yeah, no. again, it's some of these things where it's like, unless you're getting a good chunk of change or you're guaranteed like a million followers in the show, it's like, is it really worth like dying over or getting hurt over or getting sick over?
Well, Amazing Race, you'd probably kill it at that. You'd
Oh fuck,
travel the
dude.
world.
I forgot about
Just
Amazing
sign me the
Race.
check. I would win it. Like, I'm
Take
so
$1 million
confident.
right off the top.
I'll tell you, I can't fix a car, I can't build a house, I can't sing or dance. But if I were to compete in an Amazing Race, I'd fucking win that thing in a heartbeat, because I've traveled more than anyone I know. I'm super athletic, super competitive, and I'm quick on my feet. And so I would destroy. But again, if I get asked, sure, sign me up.
We'll have to clip that. That sounds like a good challenge. So,
Well, they're not going to pick me because they know it'll be too easy. Like let's just be honest. Like they're going to want someone that's not going to win it so easy, right? So
they'll be like, no, he wants too much money.
But yeah, as for other shows, like I'm 37, I'm single, I'm free in the sense of like I have no commitments to anything. I could go anywhere. Like I'm leaving Canmore October 31st, and then I plan on maybe go to Mexico, maybe buy a place, but if not, just go to South America and travel. Like I'm free. So you know where to find me. You know how to get a hold of me.
Solid. Chucky, were you going to say something there? I thought you had something to.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, kind of in between shows right now, you said you still do like a little bit of like online training or personal training, and then you said you're helping with the bar, and then like also I talked with you a little bit about crypto and stocks, so maybe just kind of fill in everybody what you're up to now.
Yeah. So every year in the last 5 years has been different for income in the sense of like how much money I make and what exactly I do for work. Although in the last couple of years it's been kind of the same. So let's say in the last 2 years it's been predominantly personal training and social media. When I say social media, I mean collaborations with brands and OnlyFans. 2022 has been personal training in person. I don't do online really anymore, but I haven't been doing any personal training here in Canmore since I've been here for all 2 months. 2022, I've also done social media brands, deals with brands. And then since Canmore, I'm not personal training, but I'm helping my friend who owns the bar. It's just me. I'm just the only one there. So I'm just one man show, and I run the bar from open to close, or sometimes I'm there half day and my buddy takes the other half day. And then, so I'm doing that and that's good. I'm doing that till the end of October, just to help her out because she had a kid in the last year and she doesn't live here. So I'm just basically running the place. And then also crypto. I'm not day trading. I would say I'm more of a long-term holder because day trading is too stressful and a little too hard for me, and I'm too impatient. So I've bought crypto on and off since 2017. I would say I'm currently in the red, though. I will admit to it. At one point, I would say my money was doubled last November, but to me, double's not enough. I'm like, if I lose it all, whatever, because I you got to diversify. So I have, but all my money is in stocks. I have no real estate currently, but that's why I want to diversify into real estate as well. But I also have some crypto. But again, I only have 5 to 10% of my net worth in crypto. Where that's probably enough for me, maybe 10%. But again, if I lost all that, I'm not going to cry or lose sleep. I would not be happy. But yeah, right now I would say so. At one point I was double, but right now I'm probably half of what it was because obviously it's gone down. I haven't been buying the dip. 2 reasons. Number one is because the money I'd be buying the dip with is money I'd used to go traveling. So I'm like, what's more important, traveling or buying the dip? And number 2 is because I feel like there could be more of a dip still within the next maybe year, maybe 6 months, because they're denying a recession, although we are in one. I feel like the stocks could still come down more, although they've bounced back up a little bit. And I feel like there's lots of regulation coming up, and anytime they do regulations, they regulate and they lots of rules and stuff. And so I feel like there could be still some I still feel like there could be some red. Like if Bitcoin went down to 10,000 or 15,000, yeah, I'll fucking buy more. But yeah, at this point in time, like I said, I don't day trade right now, so I'm just holding.
Are you mostly Bitcoin then, or do you mix in
No,
like
no, no,
Ethereum?
no. I'm I would say the most is probably, well, for actual coins. I mean, that doesn't, you can't talk about actual coins because some coins, very, very low and they're worth less. But in value amount, I'm not sure. I haven't looked for a while, to be honest. But I have Bitcoin, I have Ethereum, Cardano, XRP, Solana. I have Polkadot, Chainlink, VeChain, and Sandbox. I think that's it. So that's probably as much as I want to do, because the problem is when you have 10 different things, it's harder to make gains. When you have, like, say if you have 10% in each, it's harder if you just have 50% in this, 50% in that, because when they go up, that it's easier for those things to grow faster. But at the same time, I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket.
Fair.
What do I think is the best? I mean, I've seen a lot of news that Ethereum's coming up. You got a merger or something like that. I believe in Cardano for sure, XRP. I mean, the ones I have, they're all pretty safe in top 10. But yeah, I mean, 10 years from now, all this stuff is definitely going to be around. It just depends on which ones are going to be around and how strong they are, or how powerful they are. Like, a lot of people don't realize just to what extent that the institutions and biggest companies in the world are getting involved. Like, Amazon to Walmart to Apple, they're all getting involved. And it just depends on which one and to what extent. So yeah, anyways.
Yeah, I'm hoping the regulations actually help it. Like that's what.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Back in the day with.
Yeah, I agree. It's just the problem is, like in Canada, when they regulated weed, it fucking destroyed a lot of the markets for a while. And they kind of sometimes over-regulate, and because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. There are people that are 60, 70, 80 years old who don't even know what, fucking Google is.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like a lot of them that are going to be regulating it have zero clue about crypto, so it's going to be
they're fucking clueless. They're clueless. Yeah, and you hear, it is frustrating because, there's so much potential there, and they can make it. America and Canada it could be such a big part of our economy and so beneficial. But I don't know. I don't really know. I do feel like crypto and the dollar can coexist together. But like I do hear of like CBD, or what is it, digital currencies supposed to be in the works. I can see them doing that because obviously they want to be able to tax every fucking dollar. They want to know where exactly you're spending it. So they could bring out maybe a digital ID that's tied to a vaccine card, that's tied to a carbon footprint. I mean, World Economic Forum, and they're talking, some of the guys said, there's going to be a carbon footprint ID thing where, maybe like they'll notice where you travel and how much. And then, you've been traveling too much. You get to cut you down. You can't spend any more money here and there. And I can see that same thing with the vaccine card. You're a risk to society. You don't have your booster, so you can't go to this restaurant, or you can't spend your money here. Like, I would not be surprised whatsoever.
Cash is king in the end.
Yeah, no, exactly. Fuck, I mean, right now, but I mean, it's easy. See, cash is better, so that way you don't know where you're spending your money and how you're making it.
Yeah. Chuck, you got anything else?
Anyways, no, I was just saying I gotta get to go to I got some pre-workout going here. I gotta get to go to the gym pretty quick.
Perfect. Yeah.
We appreciate you coming on for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you have any like clips or whatever, like on the Instagram, I can I can share it to my stories.
For sure. Yeah, I'm gonna clip a bunch of this and I'll tag you in them and send them to you for sure.
It's so funny because sometimes people will do something like that, and it's like some of the stuff I say or whatever, might not sound good. It's like, why the fuck am I gonna share that? So it's so funny. So for example, when I would make highlight reels from the shows I've done, I would leave out the stuff that either I didn't think looked good or wouldn't make me wasn't positive. It was either negative or just neutral. So I would leave that out. That's called editing. That's exactly what the TV shows do. And so I'm like, when I would make my reel, obviously I'm going to make myself look good.
Yeah.
But sometimes when I do these podcasts or whatever, and they're like, can you share this clip? I'm like, yeah, why would I share that? No, thanks. I'm not getting paid for it. Why would I share it? Or does it make me look good? Why am I going to share it?
Yeah. No, don't worry. We're not going to cut it together to throw you under the bus.
we want to get you on the Amazing Race.
You use this whole thing. I was going to say, I don't care. You can use this whole thing and share it, but I'm not going to share a clip to my story that's necessarily going to make me look bad. You know, why would I do that?
For sure. Awesome.
That's for sure.
Yeah, man. We appreciate you taking the time to come on and enjoy the rest of your day, and good luck with your trip. That'll be awesome for the 4 or 5 months that you're going. That'll be huge.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. I can't wait.
Awesome, man.
All right, thanks, guys.
See you, man. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right, see ya.